Hello, this is Dr. B. I appreciate you stopping by. We thought it might be helpful if we provide an audio series based on the book Speak Softly, Love Loudly, Uncommon Sense for Raising Healthy and Successful Kids. So, stand by. Let's get to it.
Chapter 2. I Did It My Way. Parenting Style. Parents shouldn't live their lives like hell and expect their children to behave like angels. William Bowman. A young person, confused, frustrated, and seeking the meaning of life, traveled to a distant land to find the answers he so dearly needed. He arrived in the faraway place with a sense of awe and wonder. There was the experience of both excitement and anxiety. The youth wasn't sure who or what was in store for him. Quickly, he realized that to get the answers he sought, he needed to sit at the feet of one who was filled with the wisdom of years and knowledge of life's experiences. The wise one he was seeking lived at the top of a snow-capped mountain. He wasn't sure how difficult it would be to get to this teacher, who was so full of wisdom. The effects of cold and wind, as well as the possibility of falling, were all considered. But he climbed the mountain nonetheless, and found himself at the entrance to the wise one's domain. He stood tired, but with a sense of pride and hope. The youth knocked on the large weather-weary door. The sound of the knocking echoed. Footsteps were heard approaching the doorway. As the door creaked with its opening, the young visitor peered inside. The youth stood in disbelief of what he saw. There before him stood none other than his own parent. Styling. The fashion industry spends a lot of time talking about style. Changing styles, new styles, and winning styles become the talk of the town. Everyone is supposed to have their own style and signature way of looking. Fashion experts attempt to dictate what the appropriate style will be for any given season or year. While seasons may change and styles of clothing along with them, styles of parenting are often ingrained and vary little from season to season. Every parent expresses their own style for raising children through their actions and attitudes. All parents have their own private philosophy. Whether parents recognize it or not, a parent's style makes a very loud noise and reaches the ears of their students, their children. Too often these parenting philosophies result in parents finding themselves in the midst of regret, confusion, and frustration. They will ask themselves, "What did I do wrong?" Children who get involved with drugs, alcohol, sex, failed relationships, and legal problems often cause this question to surface. Like a dead fish floating to the top of a polluted stream, these problems rise to the surface as well. Parents are teachers, and the home is their classroom. More influence is brought to bear by parents than any other aspect of a child's life. Unfortunately, this power doesn't always imply positive influence. How much time, energy, and pleasant interactions a parent spends on a child colors their influence. As children grow, they become products of both their personalities and experiences. The teachings of their families greatly influence both. A child's character is the product of their years of exposure to parental direction, the world's influence, and their own personality. For some, the result resembles a storehouse of gold and other treasures. For others, the result looks more like a dung heap, smelling of rot and decay, with flies buzzing about. The importance of life's early lessons cannot be underestimated because parenting styles have a tremendous impact on a child's growing mind and body. As parents, we have a choice of tuning into our children and spending the positive time, energy, and effort required to raise healthy kids or not. Tuning in and being involved needs to be done in spite of the inconvenience or expense. Not to do so will cost our children, society, and us. The price can be very high. The reality of the cost of our choices will ring true whether we want to believe it or not. Reality reflects that we will pay now or pay later. If we choose to pay later, we will pay with interest. The early lessons a child learns are important, and the earlier we teach them, the deeper roots they have. This contrasts with the fact that over time parents have less and less control over children. So parents need to take advantage of those early years to positively influence them. Children grow physically and they mature mentally. One of the less endearing features of adolescence, of course, is to prepare for independence by showing some rebellion. Positive influence exerted early in a child's life will result in fewer problems and a healthier child later in life. One of the worst things we can do as parents is wait until we are dealing with a teenager who is rebellious and in trouble to enforce our authority. At that point, it would be naive to expect sudden changes to the rules to be accepted by an adolescent. These situations will rarely go smoothly. Changes can be made, but take much more effort than if appropriate steps would have been taken years ago. Change later on is very difficult. The teen years seem to be magical ones, especially for girls, and we're talking black magic. An increase in emotional expression and irrationality occurs. By this phase of life, if some fundamental principles and values have not been instilled in them, they can react in ways that put an erupting volcano to shame. Since adolescence normally prompts a lot of emotion, confusion, and self-doubt, the best way to prepare for those years is to exercise good parenting before it arrives. Taking advantage of early and continuing opportunities to teach healthy behavior and attitudes is a must for parents. However, while practicing good parenting tends to result in healthy children, even healthy parenting doesn't 100% guarantee a child will always make good choices. This is due to other influences in the world, as well as their own personality. But most of the time, good parenting makes all the difference. Let's take a look at parenting styles. Styles. There are at least 4 basic parenting philosophies. Most parents are completely oblivious to the fact that they have their own special way of raising their children. Therefore, it is important for parents to recognize their style, then to make adjustments for even better parenting. These styles are a result of personality, experience, and most notably, how parents were parented. Too often, bad habits are passed down from generation to generation. The first style to be considered is being permissive. The permissive parent. A permissive parent is one who looks the other way. Their motivation is to avoid conflict and not have to deal with inconvenience. They might be permissive out of guilt, or their own self-esteem is so low they don't trust their own judgment. Their sense of ineffectiveness and self-doubt may be so high that they may feel inadequate to set boundaries and enforce rules. Some don't want their children to be upset with them. Other permissive parents are under the delusion that their children will do just fine without boundaries or direction. A clever excuse for inaction a few years ago was the concern that rules would stifle a child's growth. The truth then and now is that growth will always occur, but in what direction? Children learn and grow to be either healthy or unhealthy. Little control is exerted on the part of the permissive parent. By default, they hand a lot of power over to their children. Too often they are unable to say no, or they allow a child to wear them down through argument or nagging and eventually give in. Sometimes a permissive parenting style comes as a result of some emotional or physical handicap. Exhaustion, the death of the other parent, or divorce can occur. There are also times when a child has a physical handicap or suffers in some other way that prompts a parent to try to make up for that damage. They become permissive, hoping to avoid further pain for their child. Not setting and enforcing boundaries for a child does them no favor. The end result is more pain. Whether or not a parent or child has limitations, the unfortunate truth is that a child is simply not equipped to handle the level of freedom that permissive parenting allows. Children are not mature enough or wise enough to make the decisions they need to protect themselves in life. They simply do not know what is best for them. This is one of the reasons parents remain legally responsible for their children. But we are dealing with more than a legal obligation. This obligation is a moral one. The usual result of permissive parenting is selfishness and immaturity on the part of the child. Behavior problems and a deep-seated insecurity are also frequent results. Unfortunately, permissive parents can grow insecure, selfish children even when the atmosphere in the home is a loving one. However, love is not the only quality necessary for good parenting. While love is not enough, it is necessary. Love is sometimes absent from the next parenting style. The distracted parent. A somewhat similar style of parenting to being permissive is what we shall label distracted. This is a parent that doesn't have a clue about what is going on with their children. The ignorance can result from their own stress and the strain that life puts upon them. It can be from illness, being overloaded, or even selfishness on the part of the parent. There are too many activities or troubles in their life that pull them away from paying attention to what is going on with their child. The distracted parent can also be one who is concerned but just doesn't feel they have the energy to deal with more problems. However, the distracted parent can be a person who is unconcerned, caring only about themselves, and just doesn't want to bother with the obligations of raising a child. So often, the distracted as well as the permissive parent will leave children on their own to occupy their time and make adult decisions with the child's mind. The result is that children will be exposed to material and situations long before they can effectively cope with them. The price that's paid is emotional confusion and anger for the child. Frustration and failure are other results often accompanying feelings of insecurity. Children are not designed to grow up like weeds without being tended. Like weeds, they can wilt in the sun or be choked off by other growth nearby. There remains no substitute for time, attention, and action. These are the areas the distracted parent needs to attend to. The opposite of the distracted parent is the dictator. The dictator can pay too much attention to what's going on with their children and be too concerned about control. The dictatorial parent. The third form of parenting is the dictatorship. This is the parent who says, "I'm in charge," but they don't stop there. They tune into their own authority at the expense of their child's growth and feelings. These parents tend to be smothering and have a high need for control. They often act out this need for power because of fear or arrogance. These are the parents who are over-controlling. Their goals are often to maintain control, and their concept of fairness becomes blurred. Many of these parents enjoy exercising their power. This style results in frustrating their children and causing a great deal of resentment. The resentment may be suppressed for years due to fear of punishment, but often erupts in the teen and young adult years. At other times, a child's pain never clearly surfaces, resulting in a person who feels and is inadequate. While a child may not be equipped to make all of their own decisions, they are equipped to make some of them. But since these children are not permitted to make decisions by a dictatorial parent, they don't learn how to make choices on their own. This results in feeling unable and insecure or angry and basing decisions on emotion. Children can feel inadequate in life when eventually faced with the normal choices of adulthood. Keep in mind the potential during the teen years for rebellion in response to this excessive control and use of power. Since rebellion is a normal part of this stage of life, it is easily triggered. Children can rebel openly by defying parents, or they can do it in a sneaky fashion by going behind their parents' backs. Rebellion can involve having sex, using drugs, making unhealthy friends, sneaking out, running away, or sabotaging their school grades. However, another possibility is that the smothering effect of over-control will result in depression with the child withdrawing, feeling inadequate and unempowered. Over-control keeps a child from getting near their potential. All this control and concern for power can result in the opposite of what the parent really wants. Rather than producing a safe and secure-feeling child, parents can see a lack of respect, fear, sadness, or anger. These parents produced an injured child, therefore a balance is needed. The wise parent maintains control, but has a certain flexibility. They see the need for boundaries, but also growth and self-sufficiency. These parents combine the use of power with a child's need to express and explore. This is the authoritative parent. The authoritative parent. The final and healthiest parenting approach is the authoritative style. This is the parent who is tuned in and involved with their child's life. They care enough to pay attention and to spend time and energy on their child. An authoritative parent is not overly concerned about other people's opinions or going trends, but looks out for what is best for their child. They tend to see the bigger picture, realizing that what they do now is going to have a dramatic impact on the future. The authoritative parent maintains a balance between staying in their role as a parent and maintaining control where they need to, while still allowing their child to make choices within reasonable boundaries. They don't automatically say no simply to say no, nor do they say yes and give in out of weakness. Their response is the result of being thoughtful. They consider what is best. However, they will say no because they have a good reason. Authoritative parents tend to raise more secure and confident children who are better prepared for adult life. Children under this regime are permitted to practice decision-making and express themselves. But this is done within safe limits. These children are encouraged to express themselves and make choices, but safety is maintained. Authoritative parents allow for exploration and expression of individuality, but don't tolerate disrespect and inappropriate behavior. Healthy parents often laugh and play with their children, as well as set boundaries and give consequences. Authoritative parents are real people to their children. Their children know who they are and what to expect. Children get a well-rounded look at who their parents are and are provided with a good example. Kids under this style of parenting enjoy a moderate level of freedom, while being held to clear standards and given both positive and negative consequences for behavior. The authoritative parent is a supervisor and a friend, but not a buddy or bully. Some time ago, a syndicated column by John Rosemond appeared in local newspapers. As a family psychologist, he cast some light on this discussion of differing parenting styles. Here are some notable excerpts. Parents who constantly bend over backwards for their children eventually fall over backwards. Parents who constantly go out of their way for their children eventually lose their way. Parents who always put their children first should not be surprised to find that their children eventually put them last. This certainly sounds like the permissive or perhaps the distracted parent. He goes on to say, permissive and authoritarian parents are far more alike than dissimilar. Neither can think straight when it comes to children. The former's ability to do so is hampered by worry and guilt, the latter's by anger. He goes on to describe what we are calling the authoritative parent as a benevolent dictator. Benevolently dictatorial parents derive no pleasure out of bossing children around. They simply recognize that it is every child's right to be governed well and every parent's responsibility to provide good government. It is our responsibility as parents to provide this leadership, and our leadership is legitimate, whether or not our friends, the government, or even our own children acknowledge that. Parenting is an awesome responsibility with spectacular consequences. We have the potential to either raise the leaders of tomorrow or the inmates who will be housed in our state penitentiaries. Conclusion. Most parents will naturally hold to one of these primary parenting styles. However, there can be exceptions. Some parents will shift from one style to another depending on the circumstances. This can be affected by their state of mind, emotions, or because they are using drugs or alcohol. For example, a parent who tends to be permissive could be dictatorial about dating. This could be rooted in the parent's own history of rejection or abuse. Another parent might be primarily dictatorial but lets things slide when it comes to playing sports. This approach could be rooted in the parent's attitude towards participation in athletics. Regardless of style or shifting style, the ultimate motivation should be to do what is best for our children. While parents tend to go on automatic pilot with respect to their style or philosophy of parenting, a choice can still be made to change. Whether their style is dictatorial, permissive, distracted, or authoritative, every parent can be better. Positive change can be gained with determination and effort. Parenting styles don't have to be written in stone. We can all choose to be better parents. Parenting styles have a dramatic impact on a child's development. Every aspect of what they are and will be is affected. However, one area of parenting profoundly influenced by parenting styles is the area of child discipline. A significant area of concern for most parents is how to correct their children. When approaching your child to correct them, it should be recognized that punishment and discipline are not the same. We need to check our motive for correcting our children and keep in mind who is the parent and who is the child. Our expectations for our children need to be realistic, and if not, changed. Our general approach to discipline should be matter-of-fact, plain, easy to understand, and straightforward. The timing of discipline needs to be swift, the consequences exact, and the parent as emotionally detached as possible. Clear expectations and standards need to be set, and then they need to be held on to. This means enforcing them with discipline. Parenting styles, how we discipline, as well as other factors, influence our children. There is no excuse for setting a poor example. Our children will watch what we do more than listen to what we say. Consistency and stability are incredibly important. The use of escalating discipline, along with the choices of how to discipline, are important decisions a parent must make. Due to its importance, disciplining children will be addressed in the next few chapters. This matter needs to be tackled with a lot of uncommon sense.